Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to be introducing you today to the Terra platform. So we're going to start with some slides just to give you some context about why this platform exists and what it's supposed to accomplish. And then we're going to actually go to the platform, and I'm going to share my screen and go through essentially a simple platform tour. I'm going to do my best to squeeze in as many of the morsels of knowledge that we squeeze into our 4-hour hands-on workshops. But obviously we won't get around to doing most of that, and you all won't have a chance to do a lot of the interactive things. But I will show you where you can go if you want to do all of those interactive learnings by yourselves, because we also host lots of asynchronous learning materials for people who want to onboard Terra onto themselves. So with that, I will start sharing my screen. Go. So everyone now should see my first slide, access data, run analyses, and collaborate on the cloud. We're good?
Yep, perfect.
Excellent. So before we talk about what Terra is, let's talk a little bit about how we've gotten to the point where we are in the greater bioinformatic field. So data generation is on a roll and has been for decades. Governments and institutions have been spending billions of dollars developing larger and larger data sets. And at the same time as those larger data sets get built, the tools that get built in order to deal with those data sets also proliferate at essentially the same rate. So the first genome was sequenced over 2 decades ago in 2001. And over 10 years ago, the 1,000 Genomes Project was launched with the goal of providing an extensive catalog of human genetic variation. And today, the All of Us program is underway with a similar goal of getting 1 million US participants and getting a portion of that million's genomes sequenced. So All of Us is gathering wearable data, EHR records, survey data. So there's this enormous proliferation of the data itself. And the computational resources themselves are also growing. So the computing advances that are required in order to make all of these analyses efficient and cost-effective are growing. The tools that are needed in order to produce the analyses or even just manage the data are also proliferating in both their amount and their complexity. And so in that situation, we need to find a way for everybody to be able to do this work while communicating with each other effectively. So how has this been done in the past? Before we talk about how Terra is attempting to solve all of these problems, let's talk a little bit about the traditional approach when it comes to cloud compute. Traditionally, all of this data was stored in a private repository. So actually, I shouldn't have even said cloud compute in that context. Before cloud compute, when we just realized that we would need lots of compute in order to do all of this work, all of the data was stored in private repositories, and each researcher would need to get access to the repository in order to be able to make a copy of the data set to their own local storage and analyze it with their own versions of analysis tools that they have to keep track of and manage. And there are a lot of negatives in this situation, a lot of pitfalls that might be obvious from the way that I phrased that. But just to name a few, first of all, we're not really sharing data in this motif. We're copying data. And that leads to multiple problems. For one, it necessitates an enormous and expensive amount of computational infrastructure, because now we have these gigantic data sets, and in order for researchers to be able to use them, we have to have identical or essentially identical copies of these enormous data sets living within the silo that is accessible to each one of those researchers. So that's a huge cost and is terribly inefficient. And also it leads to versioning problems because now every individual researcher has to make sure that their data set is up to date, up to standards. And on top of that, it also means that every researcher is individually responsible for the security of any protected health information or any type of sensitive data. And so essentially, every researcher becomes a potential weakest link in the chain. So we have high data storage costs. We have high infrastructure costs. We have individual security implementations in this situation. And we have a lot of problems with reproducibility because people are trying their best to manage their own versions of both their data sets and their analytical tools. And they won't necessarily succeed at this because they are literally trying to do this in tandem with millions of other researchers. So all of these things get in the way of being able to use this data efficiently. In the cloud-centric approach, we tackle a lot of these issues. First of all, in the cloud-centric approach, we don't make copies of the data. We have the data uh, located in a central repository, and then we give people security clearance to use that data right there. And they don't have to make copies of the data. They can simply point their analytical tools to the secured locations in the cloud where that data exists. And so long as they have set up their security and access to the platform, then everything should run smoothly for them on the back end. So in the cloud-centric motif, we have all of these advantages. First of all, we save an enormous amount on infrastructural costs because we're not making lots and lots of copies of the data. We are making versioning much more democratized. So instead of everybody having to keep track of their own versioning, they can pay attention to the versioning that is being put forward by the centralized platform. And very importantly, the security question is answered by the platform rather than the individual researcher. So everything that we do within Terra is considered to be inside of the Terra security perimeter. And when you are allowed to get into the security perimeter, then there aren't any issues with you then compromising the data because you have taken all the necessary trainings and signed off on the terms of service, and that takes care of your responsibility towards the towards any sort of protected health information or any other type of sensitive data. Um, so it's important to understand that the cloud-centric approach is similar to what we've all done before, but a lot of the complicated rigmarole of setting up the system is done for the researchers on the back end by the data sciences platform of Broad, which designs and manages the platform itself and the greater ecosystem around it. So all of that sounds great. And the one thing that we want to impress on people about why they should use Terra is that everything I just described may seem very obvious. And in fact, some people may have the urge to say, oh, well, that's true. Why don't I just do it? The Google Cloud is free to sign up for. And if I'm going to be paying for these computational resources anyway, if I'm going to be paying for storage, if I'm going to be paying for the actual compute, then I might as well just set this all up by myself. However, cloud solutions are hardly simple to set up out of the box. So we've done a lot of that work for you. By creating Terra, we have created a platform that takes care of things like finding and accessing data that's already in the cloud, setting up and administering the payment for the cloud storage and the computational resources, um, setting up all of the analytical tools and having all of the versions in place in such a way that you don't have to figure out how to upload the right Dockers into the right place and figure out why your analytical tools aren't working the way that you expect them to. Everything is done in a way that should work out of the box without people having to worry about the considerable expertise that's necessary for the computational solutions. Because a lot of the people who need to be using Terra are not necessarily computer scientists. And even if they are computer scientists, their day job is not to implement complicated cloud solutions. And so for that purpose, we've created Terra. So that's where Terra comes in. It's built to make it easier to access and analyze growing data sets of rich, controlled data, no matter what your level of cloud expertise or coding experiences. So how is Terra and a cloud-centric approach solving some of the problems in the traditional computational model? Let's take a look. So first of all, what is Terra? Terra is a web interface, and it was co-developed by the Broad Institute in collaboration with Microsoft and Verily Life Sciences. And it's designed to do all of the heavy lifting and help move your analysis in the cloud. So when I say all of the heavy lifting, all of that stuff in the previous slide that we were talking about being complicated to use out of the box, that's all that heavy lifting, making sure that all of the data sets are in the right place. All of the tools are functional and up to date, making sure that the security implementation is correct and that the appropriate users have all of the appropriate access. All of that heavy lifting is done by Terra. Um, on Terra, you can access everything you need in one central place. So there's a data library. You can find data, and the libraries include both public and restricted access data sets, and many of them are linked directly to the platform. And we'll see that during the platform tour that you can actually explore some of the data of these consortia and create yourself a cohort and then send it directly to your Terra workspace. You can process and analyze data with different modes of computation. This includes our two broad categories of computation, which is batch workflows that are written in the workflow description language, or WDL, if anyone is familiar with WDL. And also, we have an interactive analysis mode. There are several applications for interactive analysis that are integrated into the Terra platform. We won't get the chance to fully launch one today because it takes a few minutes for the virtual machine to actually spin up. But I will show everyone how it's done so that you can see how easy it is. And workspaces let you keep track of all of the data and all of the tools for a particular project together, along with a variety of rich descriptive options to make it so that you can share all of the information for a particular project with whatever collaborators you want in a very seamless way. You can actually work together in the same workspace. So Terra isn't an island. It's part of a large open ecosystem. And it's meant to be modular, standards-based, and with open source components. This means that you have flexibility to do many things. You can find and access data, but you can also bring your own. You can access tools, but you can also bring your own. And you can perform analyses and share them securely with the built-in security features. So there's a fairly rich set of options for how you share your workspaces. You can allow people to be readers of your workspaces so that they can only see what's going on in there. You can allow them to take actions in your workspaces, so long as you're willing to allow them to spend money on the billing project that workspace exists on, and so forth. And so most importantly, Terra is designed to work with highly sensitive data. You can work with sensitive data like human genomes and clinical data. Centralized security means that all the components in the Terra ecosystem exist within this security perimeter, which has both a FISMA and FedRAMP moderate certification. And it satisfies the security requirements for many controlled access data sets. And so there's always a little bit of an extra question around protected health information specifically. Um, and so you can actually read our terms of service for the latest information. There's a whole section on HIPAA and on PHI. And what it currently boils down to is that it depends on your organizational needs and what contractual obligations may be needed around protecting that data. So we have a lot of pieces of tech implemented for increasing security, and you should basically use as much of that security as possible when working with sensitive data. But you should consider case by case on an institutional level whether or not a particular data set may or may not be appropriate to upload to Terra without going through the process of creating a data portal. If you have a large data set that you want to mount a data explorer so that lots of people can go around and explore that data, then you would work with the data sciences platform, and then all of these security questions would be answered within that process. If you choose to upload sensitive data to Terra, then there are a whole bunch of security features that you can use that should address any security needs that you have. But it's always best when you're working with sensitive data that you want to manually upload yourself. To follow up, you can send an email to support@terra.bio to ask about a particular level of data, and if there's a recommended level of security that you should be working with if you plan to upload that data manually. But the short answer is yes, you absolutely can work with PHI in Terra, but in certain cases, you may want to be careful and approach the Terra team with specific questions about how securely to treat certain types of sensitive data. Usually people anonymize their data before putting it into Terra to avoid having to figure out these answers. If this is not an option, just go ahead and start a conversation with us. And so that more or less brings me to the end of the slides. I did mean to provide this slide deck to everyone because it has lots of useful links in it. So we on the user education team, as I mentioned, provide a lot of training materials, both in the sense of providing these types of live trainings, but also we provide a lot of asynchronous training materials. We provide all of the manuals and documentation for the platform. And so we actually have a set of courses for people who want to take some of our workshops by themselves on their own time. We have these asynchronous courses on our LeanPub platform. And I'm going to go ahead and provide this slide deck to the series organizers after this session so that they can send it around so everyone has all of these links if they want to explore. But you can learn basically everything you need in order to get started on Terra through our LeanPub courses. We have a whole bunch of very useful videos on our YouTube channel. We have a set of documentation called our Getting Started Guide, which is also meant as a self-onboarding resource. And also we have, for those interested in running their own workflows, or more importantly, modifying or even writing their own workflows from scratch, we have some asynchronous resources for people who want to learn the workflow description language, or WDL. So you can, at the bottom there, you can click on the videos for the WDL boot camps, and you can also go directly to the WDL puzzle workspaces and work on those if you want to practice your WDL skills. So at this point, I'm going to pause and ask if there are any questions, and then I will shift over to the Terra platform itself, and we'll look around. I
think no questions at this point, but it'll be great to see you live and in action on Terra.
Excellent.
You have a raised hand. Anna, do you want to voice your question? It just allowed you to talk. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Anton. I'm really curious about the relationship with Microsoft and Verily, and what the nature of that relationship is, has been in the past, and is going forward.
That's not really a question for me. That's probably more of a question for DSP leadership. It's actually, as far as I understand, a somewhat sensitive question, but there have been a lot of changes in the partnerships over the last couple of years, some shifting priorities. A lot of it has to do with the fact that the infrastructure on the Google Cloud is different from the infrastructure on the Microsoft Cloud, on Azure. And so today I'm going to be doing my platform tour on the Google version, because that's the version that I'm a little bit more accustomed to. We've had it implemented for a longer amount of time. That is the version that is more conducive to individual researchers. The Azure cloud infrastructure is such that it's much more conducive to larger enterprises. So a larger, an institutional subscription is necessary in order for people to be able to use the Azure cloud in a cost-effective manner. So I hope that gives some answer to
yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about the differences between the cloud infrastructures. I don't necessarily know very much about the state of the partnerships. Any other questions? All right, let's go to our platform. So I'm assuming that everyone is still looking at my screen, and now everybody sees me on app.terra.bio.
Yep, we see your web page.
Perfect. Okay, so here we are on the landing page of the analytical platform itself. The URL is app.terra.bio. Note that if you just go to terra.bio, you will land on our marketing website, which should also, after a few clicks, land you over here. But the analysis platform itself can be found at app.terra.bio. And so before we move on to the more meaty parts of the platform, I'm just going to give everyone a rundown of what you'll find in the main menu. So here in this upper left corner, when you click this hamburger button, you will see a slide out panel for the main menu. Within the main menu, you can see a section for your individual user profile. Within your user profile, you'll find a lot of useful things for working with Terra. Sometimes you will, for example, for certain security implementations, you'll need to know what your proxy group email is. You find that down here in your personal information. When you want to explore a data set which is not public, but the security for that data set has been integrated with the Terra infrastructure, then you'll need to authenticate into that whatever security system that data set has implemented. You do that here in your external identities section. And you can also find your notification section here. All of these are so these are all email notifications that you will get when things happen to your account or to one of your workspaces. So for instance, when you submit a workflow, do you want to get a notification that that workflow has completed, whether it has failed or succeeded? You can make all of those choices here. After the profile, there's a section called groups, and this is one of the security features that I mentioned. So a group is, in some senses, like a security badge. You can be added to a group, and then that group can be a requirement for different levels of access into a workspace. So if I create a workspace, and I add the security implementation that the workspace is protected by one of these managed groups, then only people who are also in the managed group will be able to do things like clone the workspace for themselves. So this is not a required element of using Terra, but it is a very useful security feature, particularly for those who are working with sensitive data. Under that, you can find your billing information. So here is where you will find the set of billing projects that you have access to. In order to do work on Terra, and right now I'm going to be talking about just the Google version. The Microsoft version has very similar answers, but just for efficiency, I'm going to just give everyone the rundown on the Google version. So in the Google version, in order to run any sort of computational actions, or in order to do any type of storage, or even to create your own workspace, you will need to have a billing project, what's known as a Terra billing project. A Terra billing project is connected to a Google billing account. Doing this by yourself is perfectly feasible. It's a little bit of a hassle, but it's actually something that individual researchers do all the time. There's a little bit of extra work that has to be done on the Google Cloud Console side, and we have a lot of documentation and walkthroughs on how to do that, to basically create a Google billing account and to add yourself into that Google billing account as a Terra user. And once you have done that, you will be able to create what are called Terra billing projects. So for example, if I wanted to create a Terra billing project, I would do that by clicking on that button, and then it will show me this modal. So I'm actually not sure if the screen sharing is showing you the modal. Does everyone see on their screen a little modal that says create Terra billing project?
Yes, we see it.
Oh, okay, perfect. So this is how I would create a Terra billing project, and I would need to first select a Google billing account to which that billing project would be connected. So that's how billing is implemented on Terra. After the billing section, you can find the cloud environment section. This will not be clear to everyone until later in the platform tour what it is that you can find here. But just to give everyone a little preview, when you create virtual machines within your workspace for interactive analysis, those virtual machines persist until you decide to delete them. And those virtual machines are referred to as cloud environments. The cloud environment counts both the virtual machine and the persistent storage that is attached to that machine. And if you want to basically just go and see a central list of all of the cloud environments that you have going at the moment, then you can come here rather than hunting around all of your workspaces to figure out where you have cloud environments running. You can manage them all from here. You can delete them all from here. And so you see here, I have two separate lists. I have my individual cloud environments, but I also have the persistent disks that are associated with those cloud environments. And that'll all be a little bit more clear by the end of the platform tour. Although it will be much more clear for anyone who takes the full 4-hour workshop. So that's what you can find there. And then we'll come back to the workspaces button in just a moment. First, we'll finish looking at all the different resources that are available to you in the main menu. So under the library section, you'll find 3 different sections. There is a section for data sets, there's a section for featured workspaces, and there's a section where you can find workflows to import into your workspaces. So let me just work backwards through those. So if I click on code and workflows, then it takes me to this page where it shows me some of our most heavily used workflows. And if I were to click on this, it would take me to a description of the workflow in the doc store, and there's a button right over here to export that workflow to a Terra workspace. But these are just our kind of most heavily featured workflows. They are the GATK4 best practices workflows, so it's worth having a big splashy button for them right up front. But you can also find lots and lots of additional workflows either in the doc store or in the Broad Methods repository, and there will be buttons there for exporting those into your workspaces as well. In addition to the featured workflows, we actually also have a fairly large catalog of featured workspaces. And the featured workspaces are workspaces that contain data and or tools and lots of descriptive text that give you some idea of a particular project, a particular pipeline, a particular data set, and in some cases, the featured workspaces are straight up end-to-end tutorials. We, on the user education team, have created several quick start tutorials just for people getting used to using Terra. So again, the self-onboarding motif. So you can find those here in this Getting Started section. And that's actually what we're going to do as the end of this platform tour, is I'm going to go into one of these tutorial workspaces, and we'll finish our platform tour by looking through the workspace itself, taking a tour of the workspace, and I'll show everyone how cloning is done, and that'll be the entire demonstration. So
Anton,
that's
there was one. Oh, is it okay if I do ask you one question just related?
yes,
to what you
absolutely. I'm
mentioned
sorry. I
before?
should have reminded everyone. Questions during the platform tour should come as necessary.
This was a question about accessibility for Terra, especially thinking about institutions or countries where there's technological barriers. Do you have a sense of what usage of Terra would look like in an environment with limited bandwidth or cloud access options? I'm sure it's something you've thought of.
It's something that DSP has thought a lot about. It's a little bit outside of the purview of the user education team. I can tell you whom you should talk to if you want to learn more about the implementation of Terra in with some African consortia, where that's very much one of the concerns. There just isn't as much of access to resources in a lot of places where we are trying to build bases of Terra users. So I think it's a much longer discussion. Thank you for the question. I don't necessarily have a very detailed answer for you right now.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that's featured workspaces, and then
Sorry,
yes,
sorry, I have
please.
a
Yes.
quick question. in your group section, you showed how you're a member and you can create your own groups and so on and so forth. So, so for example, you created your group, you are the member, you are the admin, so on and so forth, and people come and change team member changes. So how easy it is to transfer this membership or make another person the group member so that they have all the permissions which is needed to carry on the project?
Very easy. You can make anybody, I can show you right now if I wanted to add somebody to a group. Let's see, where I am an admin. So I'm an admin in this group, and if I wanted to add a user, I can also make them an admin. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yep. So that's all that you would have to do. Let's see. So where were we? We were on data sets. So this is a part that I always like showing everybody. We have a variety of data sets that are integrated into the Terra ecosystem such that you can browse the data with these integrated data explorers. And some of these have integrated data explorers, and some of them go directly to a different platform, and then there is some sort of a data handoff that is individual to that particular platform. But if you just want to, so this is an example of a data set that rather than taking you to a data explorer, it takes you to a data delivery workspace. So that's another motif for delivering data. But you can also often do things like this. So this is what's called a data explorer. And so the MPG data is organized via this data explorer. And if I wanted, let's say I was only interested in a very specific subset of data, maybe this is all that I wanted, only people who only data sets that fell into this particular category. Or if I wanted an intersection of data in that category and in this category. You can see the number of participants that are in my cohort is shrinking. So the total cohort was about 3,500 people. But then I applied some filters, and now I have a cohort of about 90 people. And then I can save that cohort, and after I've saved it, it will give me another modal asking me what workspace I would like to send that data to. So that's how the data set library works on Terra. And that brings us to just about the final portion of this platform tour. So when I click on workspaces, it takes me to this view of all of the workspaces that are available to me in various ways. So you can see here is an all-inclusive list of all of the workspaces to which I have any sort of access. And I've been working on Terra a lot, so I have a whole bunch of them. Within all of the workspaces that I have access to, because this is an inclusive list, that includes a roughly 400 public workspaces. Of those roughly 400 public workspaces, there are 75 public workspaces that are listed as featured in our featured workspaces section. And of those, there are about 5 that are highlighted in particular as new and interesting. And we can actually go directly to one of those to explore the structure of a workspace a little bit. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to this COVID-19 Broad Viral NGS workspace. So here we are inside of a workspace, and this workspace, I don't think that makes a difference to us right now. So occasionally you'll see notifications when you're browsing around Terra that should not alarm you in any way. But you will notice that over here, I have a spinning wheel, most likely because I will not have access to the computational resources of this workspace on account of I am not one of the owners of the workspace. And you can see right here, my access into this workspace is read only. So that means that I won't be able to edit this dashboard field, but I can read it. It means that I can't necessarily upload data, so I can't import data into this workspace, but I can look at what metadata is available as part of the workspace. I won't be able to open any interactive analyses that are in the workspace, but I can copy them. And so actually there was an error loading them. There should be some notebooks in this workspace, but for whatever reason they didn't load this particular time. So sometimes you have to hit refresh. But basically I can see all of the resources in here. I can make copies of them, and in many cases I can send them to other workspaces where I do have access. I can also make a clone of this workspace for myself. And this is one of the key functionalities of Terra, is the ability to make clones of workspaces. So this workspace is not fully accessible to me. I do not have more than read permission for any portion of this workspace. But if I were to make a clone of this workspace attached to one of my own billing projects, I don't know why it's not letting me do that right. Let's go to one of our, here we go. Let's go to our snapshot. Quick start. There we go. So I have a lot more access into this workspace because I happen to be one of the owners of the workspace, or at least I have some sort of permission into the workspace because I would be able to launch a Jupyter environment. So before I go into the details of what's going on in this panel, let me finish the tour of the workspace itself. So along here, you can see a number of tabs. You can see first the dashboard tab. In the dashboard tab, we have all of the upper level workspace information. We have this large editable markdown field. And in fact, this workspace is currently locked, so that we can see more of this functionality. I'm going to go ahead and clone my own workspace. And you can see that several of the other options are available to me. I have I'm a project owner with respect to my access level to this workspace. So I'm able to do things like share access to this workspace with others. And I can also just go ahead and make my own clone. And that's what I would like to do. Oh my, I've entered into the wrong universe. I've actually entered us into the Azure universe. So I'm going to go find our Google Cloud version instead. We have a lot of resources now that are mirrored across the Google universe and the Azure universe. So I really wanted to focus on our Google version. So we're going to go here. Actually, I should have noticed that right here. So here are the icons that indicate which cloud is hosting that particular workspace. So I shouldn't have clicked on this one because I'm not trying to explore the Azure-based ones. So I'm going to click on this one, which is one of our Google-based ones. And it seems like there might be some kind of, no, we're good. There might be some kind of a maintenance window going on right now. We usually pause the maintenance windows during workshops, but I neglected to do that because this is a smaller workshop and we didn't anticipate having any issues. But it seems like it's all working. Okay, so here we are in the dashboard, and this is now a dashboard of a workspace that I have full access to. I'm listed as an owner under support@terra.bio. And so I can do things like edit this description. This is actually just one giant markdown field, if anyone here is familiar with Markdown. So I can do any sorts of edits that I want here and then save that. And Markdown is a lightweight but rich text formatting language that allows you to basically create very nice commentary for all of your code. And so we've implemented one large markdown field at the front of the dashboard so that you can add a high-level description along with any types of media that you need to make it so that you can share your workspace with all of the information already in it. Other things that you
Hey,
can find.
hey, Anton.
Yes.
I just wanted to give you a time check. We're gonna have to switch over to the MPG seminar in a few minutes. So we're a little bit, if you could just wrap up with a few more comments and in your tutorial, that'd be great. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for the heads up. Yeah, like I said, I was trying to squeeze as much of our 4-hour workshop as possible into this session. So just a few quick concluding remarks. Everyone has now seen basically how the platform is structured. Here in the data section, you can find metadata that is meant to point to external locations, or to just contain flat numerical data. So actually, if we were to explore some of the other featured workspaces, you'd see a lot of these fields populated with hyperlinks to external locations that are within the Terra security perimeter. And so what you can do is you can launch workflows pointing at your data in your data tab. And then you basically accomplish exactly what I was describing, where rather than making copies of data, you can launch your workflows directly against the data where it lives. And then you can launch your interactive analyses applications within your Terra workspace and start analyzing whatever data is in your workspace. So I guess I'll stop right there.
Thank you so much for giving us the introduction and the live demo. Thank you.